Okay, so I went to see Karate Kid Legends today. Man, this film, it is directed by Jonathan Entwistle, written by Rob Lieber. The film is produced by Karen Rosenfeld. It is executive produced by Jenny Hinkey, Ralph Macchio, and line production from Joseph Macchio. Dominic Lewis handled the music, with Justin Brown on cinematography. It's edited by Colby Parker Jr. and Dana E. Gloomberman. I think that's right. Jonathan Papsidera handled the casting. So, Jonathan, it's the same thing, essentially. John Papsidera, John Billington, and Maya Siegel are production design. Art direction, we have Felix Lavia Charon, Marie Solie Demont, Elise Deblue, and Frederic Berthomeu Gabino. They all were down with the art direction. Set decoration, we have got Charles Oliver Tremblay, Charlotte Lee, Pascal Deschenins, Louise Dandonu, Jean-Charles Clevu, and Genevieve Bovine. Mirren Gordon Cruzier is costume design. We got Hannah Yee, Natalie Vergia, Natalie Trepanier, Sardine Takam, Mario Saint-Louis, Sebastian R.G. Romero, Cynthia Patton, Lindsay McAllister, Colette Martel, Catherine Lavue, Christopher Garrett, Bruno Gattin, Nancy Ferlat, Yannick Farbage, Frederic Dugry, Natalie Dion, Brittany Crooks, Annick Charretier, Christine Carrier, Julie Brasbourse, Marianne Bobette, Christian Belek were all on hair and makeup. And our cast, we have got Jackie Chan as Mr. Han, Ralph Macchio as Daniel LaRusso, Ben Wong is Li Fong, Ming-Na Wen is Li's mum, Dr. Fong, and the niece of Mr. Han. We have then got I say Sadie Stanley is Mia Lipani. Her dad, who is Victor Lipani, is played by Joshua Jackson. There is Mia's ex-boyfriend, Connor Day, played by Aramis Knight. Wyatt Olive is Alan, Lee's tutor. The headmistress at Lee's new school, Mrs. Morgan, is played by Shawnette Renee Wilson. Who else do we have? Yeah, because there's O'Shea. O'Shea is played by Tim Rosen. He owns Demolition Dojo. There's Fat Jerry, played by Nicholas Carella. He works with Victor. Who else do we have? Bo Fong, Lee's brother, played by Yankee G. A young version of Lee is played by Marco Zhang. Ortiz is played by Marcus Aurelio. I do believe he's an MMA fighter. Then we have got... Oh, and Ortiz is the boxer who Victor fights. His corner man is played by Nico Nikolov. Chance Jones is the hype man. Buddha Stevens, played by Mustafa Bulut. The subway worker who we see at the end towards the end is played by Canencia Jordan. Yeah, I think that's basically it, really. Yeah, so the gist of the film. When Kung Fu prodigy Li Fong relocates to New York City with his mother to attend a prestigious new school, he finds solace in a new friendship with a classmate and her father. But his newfound peace is short-lived after he attracts unwanted attention from a formidable local karate champion. Driven by a desire to defend himself, Lee embarks on a journey to enter the ultimate karate competition. Guided by the wisdom of his kung fu teacher, Mr. Han, and the legendary karate kid, Daniel LaRusso, Lee merges their unique styles to prepare for an epic martial arts showdown. Okay, well that, people, is, bullshit. That's not the film. It's not the film at all. That's kind of crazy. You know? Yeah, that is just very odd. You know? Oh, shit. I just saw something on IMDb, right? It says Ralph Macchio, when he made this film, was 63, which is 12 years older than Pat Moriarty, who played Mr. Miyagi in the original film, which is nutty because Mr. Miyagi, like, you thought he was a mad old dude, right? So Mr. Miyagi was 51 in that film, but you thought Mr. Miyagi must be like 70 or something. You know what I mean? Which, is nutty. But people, when you look at people in the 80s compared to people now, man, like a 30-year-old looked, you know what I mean, mad old, right? So it's, it sounds crazy, but, you know, I guess it's understandable in a way. So there was a lot of talk about this film, which... it's kind of odd, right? It was all kind of odd because it didn't really, because you had Cobra Kai. You know what I mean? Like the series, it started off on YouTube, right? It was one of YouTube's original programs before they decided to shutter all of that and Netflix picked it up. But it was that, that was spinning off, and it came after the 2010 The Karate Kid reboot, which was terrible. Oh my God. It had Will Smith's kid in it. It was so shit. Oh my God. I hated it. It just made no sense. right? It made no sense whatsoever. And the crazy thing about it is that this film kind of, you know, like, because in the 2010 film, right, you had Jaden's character move from Detroit to Beijing, China. And he's doing karate. But Mr. Han, right, Jackie Chan's character in this one, he's got this big kung fu dojo, right? Which was the thing that made no sense. Like, if you're going to China, that's not karate, right? That's kung fu. So it was just, yeah, it just never really made any sort of sense. It was very weird. It was very weird indeed. But this film, it's actually, I believe, I might be wrong, but I believe it is Jonathan Entwistle's feature directorial debut. Now, look, he's directed a lot of TV, but I think this is the first film he's done. Now I might be wrong, but I believe it is. But yeah, this film, it started off, and I think it was a scene from the second Karate Kid film, right, when they go back to Japan. I think it was from that, right? So we have that scene, but then it gets expanded upon with animation, right? And it was just basically talking how you had like this Chinese-Japanese connection, so that was it. And then we go to China, and we've got Mr. Han and Ben Wang, Li Fong even. And we have all of this, and then we find out that they're moving. Now, when this opened up, I was like, oh my days, because it's subtitled. So I have no real clue what the fuck was happening there. Now, they were using yellow text, but there's no solid background, so you're losing it in the light, scenes, and it was a mess, man. It was a mess. But we have all of this, and then they arrive in New York, right? And he's going to his new school, and we have all of this kind of thing. Now, the weird thing about the beginning was, so they're at this new joint, and there's no food, so Lee's like, I'll go out and I'll get something. I'll get pizza. I saw a pizza place as we were coming here to go to the pizza place. Firstly, he's just like, he's asking for a stuffed crust, and they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? We don't do stuffed crust. But then he's just like, so like, the girl Mia who works here, obviously, right? She's just like, oh, is there anything else you need? Right? There's her dad and the other workers, Fat Cherry and the others, are mocking him for the stuffed crust thing, right? So she's just like, stop being mean. And she's like, what else do you need? He's just like, toilet paper. Right? And then he's just like, oh no, what I meant was a place where I could buy toilet paper. But I'm just like, that's, you know what I mean? Like, you would ask for is there a store close by where I can buy amenities? That's what you would ask. You know what I mean? So you have these weird structured sentences and conversations that are there to, like, you know what I mean, try and get a laugh or something, but it's just like, it makes no sense. And then she's just like, oh, there's a bodega. And he's just like, a bodega? And what makes no sense whatsoever, right? This film is set in present day. So there's the internet. And if you try and tell me that someone isn't going to look into where they're moving to, you know what I mean? You're full of shit. And the other thing, just watching TV and films, you know what a bodega is, right? So basically, we're saying Lee has never watched a Western film or TV show. That's what we're saying, right? If we're trying to believe he has no clue what bodega is, right? It's just, these things are just dumb. I think it's kind of lazy storytelling, you know? But, you know, he then bumps into her at his school and they, you know, become friends. But another thing is, we're saying, because we essentially don't see any of Mia's other friends. So it's just like Mia has no friends. That's like, huh? How? Why? Why does this girl have no other friends? You know? Why does she have no other friends? Right? And what are they actually bonding on? You know what I mean? Like, we don't get any legitimate reason why these two might fall for each other. It's not saying they couldn't or wouldn't, but, you know, it doesn't give us a good reason. Right? It doesn't create a situation where you're like, oh yeah, I buy this relationship. You know, just the notion of, you know, because, so her dad is an ex-boxer, and, you know, there's a bit when he asks Lee to train him. Again, makes absolutely no sense. Makes no sense whatsoever, right? Like, you're meant to believe that Lee is this kung fu protege, but he's getting his ass kicked at the beginning of the film, right? So it's either he is really good, or are we saying kung fu is bullshit, right? Like, that's the thing. It's very odd. Like, this whole setup is very odd, because we kind of take a long time before we get to the inevitable karate competition. And they never really, like, it's the first Karate Kid, mad successful. I loved it as a kid. You feel me? And they don't ever try and veer too far away from that whole concept and setup, right? You've got this bad dojo. So in this one, it's Demolition Dojo. And of course, Mia's ex-boyfriend is a fighter there. And the like, whenever we have bits from there, because we're meant to believe that this Connor kid is this vicious fighter. It's insane. He's so crazy. We have him knocking out his sparring partners. He's knocking out his sparring partners. And again, this film is set in present times, right? You wouldn't have people training at that school. You wouldn't have people training at that school if you're, you know what I mean? There's the fear of being knocked out in sparring. Now, obviously, there's going to be some people, there's the people that love hard sparring. But that's a small percentage. Most people who are just looking to, I don't know, keep fit, right? Do it, in their spare time. They're not looking to hard spar, right? Like I did judo, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai, and whenever there was a dick that would come, you know what I mean, sign up, people just wanted to steer clear of that person. And it made some people just not want to come back, right? So you've got this Connor kid blasting his training partners, but this is a rammed up school. It's you need to sell this shit better. There's other ways to build a villain, right? To build someone who's just a shit. There's other ways to do it. But this film, right, it's going, oh, in the first Karate Kid, we had Cobra Kai, right? So let's do a modern take on that, right? So we got that. The fight sequences in this film, I mean, especially there's this big fight outside towards the beginning. It is so fast, right? It feels like they sped up the action and you have these really fast cuts that does make it a really unenjoyable sequence. I did not enjoy that. It was just really just the way it was put together, the cutting of that fight, it was bad. I did not like it at all. You know? And a lot of times the fight scenes are the things that can save a film, right? The fights were fun, you know? As long as it's like not done in a way where you can see that they're obviously not hitting each other, right? But yeah, this one, some odd fights, odd fighting. I mean, even in the film, we have a bit at the start where, we see this move done. So okay, so this move is featuring in the film. But instead of saving the anticipation of till the end, they show a thing, before. And you're just like, I mean, to know this thing at this point, then you really know how the film is basically ending. I mean, it's not a surprise how this film is going to end, but I'm just like, keep a little bit back, right? Try and pretend that people can't see through your paper thin plot. You know what I mean? Just try, people. Try. Right? But the film is just full of these weird... Like, there's a bit when Lee gets into Victor's pizzeria late at night. And it's just like, why would Lee have the key? Right? Why would Lee have the key to the fucking pizzeria? That was just very weird. The same with how Mr. Fang turns up in New York. Right? Even because Daniel doesn't come into the film until, I think, over halfway. Like maybe 2/3 in, let's say. And that feels very forced, right? This isn't a smooth film. It's very odd, but again, like, it feels like this whole production, because I think I lost my tangent at the beginning, right? Because when this was originally announced, it was like this was going to be separate to Cobra Kai. That's what we had heard. It's separate to Cobra Kai. But then, you then find out now, right? They're saying that the film is set after Cobra Kai. right? So it's like going Cobra Kai did happen, and all of this stuff does, so you have all of these things, but the film itself just feels like you're trying to squish all of these parts together, and it's not merging. It's not really merging, So I think if you like Cobra Kai, you could possibly like Karate Kid Legend, because I watched some of Cobra Kai, and it was very like on the nose, It was very on the nose. It was very predictable and everything like that. So I think if you like that, you could like this. If you like the 2010 film, The Karate Kid, you could like this. I mean, if you like the next Karate Kid, oh man, and that was just terrible shit. You might like this, right? I think this is kind of for those people that enjoyed Never Back Down, right? Like those dreadful MMA kind of films that people try to make once they realize how big the UFC is. There was one terrible one on Prime that came out, I think, beginning of last year. Right, so if those are your jam, you like those films, then I think Karate Kid Legend could speak to you. But if you're wanting something that harkens back to the 84 The Karate Kid, right, that has that sentimental, value, that has that feel-good nature, I don't think Karate Kid Legends does. Because you have so much contrivedness here. You have so many forced situations that it just doesn't really add up to a great experience, for me anyway. You might enjoy it, people, right? You might enjoy it. And there's been plenty of times where I've not vibed with something and everyone else has. So this might be for you, but it wasn't for me, right? Now, Karate Kid Legend, it is currently out in the cinema. I mean, it dropped today, right? It's currently out in the cinema. So if you want to see it, hop down to your local cinemaplex and enjoy.